Good morning, everyone, at least in this part of the world. We are here again on the third weekend of the Global Empowerment Summit with Stephanie, and I'm so happy to welcome her in the studio. And this is the weekend of leadership, the weekend of standing up for others and the community building. So we are talking about that topic, and Stephanie has something interesting to say, other topic that is, I think, very much related to leadership. So Stephanie, before we step into the topic, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you, Andrea, for having me here. So I'm Steph. I'm originally from New Zealand, currently in Costa Rica, and who I am is I'm a body authenticity coach as well as a team management and leadership specialist, whereby I interrupt the narrative and create this whole new conversation in the space of leadership, whereby body image and who we are in the digital world plays a really huge part to play inside of who we are as leaders. So that's why I'm here today, is to speak specifically into body image and how our relationship to our appearance impacts who we be, what we say, and what we do in the world of leadership.
Love it. And I want to ask, why Costa Rica? How did you choose this direction and location? It's so amazing being there and working from there.
Yeah, well, honestly, it was a mistake. Well, not a mistake, an accident, a glorious accident. I came here from London. I was living in London before here, and came here for a 3-week holiday, and the UK changed their COVID rules. And so I decided to stay here, and I've been here for a year and a half now. And it's just been an amazing experience filled with abundance of opportunities in terms of business and working as a digital nomad. And it's been a huge blessing to my life to have the opportunity to accidentally live in Costa Rica.
What a nice accident. It reminds me when we were stranded out of
Yeah.
Malaysia and we spent some time in Brazil. It's exactly the same. So, okay, let's start about your topic, creating space for your real self in the digital world. Why is it so important? We all know that there's so much noise around us, and the digital world can just, swallow us. Or how can I say that? You can get disappear in all these spaces created and all the information that is going on. So tell us a little bit about your title.
For sure. So the the key reason behind this title is that in this digital world that we all live in, right? It's hard not to be in this digital world right now, is that our real self and our imagined self have been blurred. Now what do I mean by that? Well, our real self is our natural self. It's our natural self-expression. It's who we are as a real person. And the imagined self is the avatar. It's the person we hope and we wish to be. And back before the digital world, we would see fleeting images of that dream person, like comparing ourselves to that physical appearance, whether that was how they dressed to the way their body was shaped, but it would be fleeting images because it would be when we read a newspaper or we read a magazine, etc. So that imagined version of ourselves was literally just that, something that was kept to the imagination. And after reading that magazine or seeing that fleeting image walking past a hairdresser window or wherever that advertising is, we're still walking around in this world as our real authentic self. We couldn't get away with it. We were ourselves, and we easily got to learn how to be with ourselves. But now, due to the digital space, we have technology out there whereby not only are we constantly bombarded with all of these images that are telling us that we don't look enough and we need to dress like them, have things like them and look like them, even like physical appearance in terms of our body shape and size. Not only are we bombarded with that, but we also have software out there now where we can post a photo on social media, we can change the way we look, we can alter the shape of our body, and we have now become accustomed to living into that new version of ourselves, such that our relationship to the reality of our own bodies and the reality to our own skin and our own self has been blurred. It's been removed from the space, and the more attached that we get to this imagined version, and the more blurred that our imagined and real selves become, the more disconnected we become, the more disconnected we are to ourselves, and the less authentic we become, and the more uncomfortable our life becomes, because we're always searching for and wishing we were something we're not. So the sense of accomplishment, the sense of fulfillment, the sense of satisfaction, which is a huge thing in this world right now. The satisfaction is the biggest pandemic we have in this world today. We don't get to experience that, because who we are, it becomes inferior to the image that we now have the tools to create online.
I love it. And Alchen just wrote here, like, dreamed imagined person reminds me of Avatar movie. Something like that, right? They go to sleep and they wake up as those beautiful beings in a beautiful world, and they're living parallel lives. And that's something which is coming towards us, right? With the new metaverse and all these VR glasses and everything, that we will have two different realities, and we have to somehow manage ourselves and stay true to ourselves. So nice. So where do we start with all these, what you say? How do we create the space? What are the steps that we can take?
Well, to create a space for your real, to create a safe space for your real self in this digital world, the core of that safe space is being powerfully related to yourself. Now, what do I mean by that? It's like a really huge, vague thing to say. And it definitely takes more than one moment of reflection, and it takes more than one conversation. But it's actually meticulously looking at yourself and basically creating a mind map of every area of life that matters to you. Now, this is the big picture, right? And this is why I say this takes more than one conversation. But it's being clear on what are the areas of life that matter to you: family, career, finances, confidence, appearance, maybe having a sisterhood or a social life. Whatever is important to you. And it's really about looking at yourself and knowing that for yourself. It's not looking at your best friend and being like, okay, what does he want? That's the right way to be. It's actually, no, looking at you, being like, okay, these areas of my life matter. And then how do I want to experience myself in these areas of life? What does that look like? So for me personally, it's a really awesome example. I've had a huge breakthrough in finances and discovering who I am in finances. But what that took was meticulously getting powerfully related to what are my expenses, like living this desired life that I want for myself, where I honestly feel like I'm going to be, and know that I'm going to be the happiest and living the most fulfilling life. What are the expenses associated with that? Where am I living? What's the rent? And literally doing utilities and food, and like, okay, like, do I want to get my nails done every month? And really getting really intimately connected to that version of me. And once I got connected to all of those expenses, I got clear on my sweet spot. I was like, oh, that's how much I need to earn per month for me to have that quality of life. And when I got connected to that sweet spot, that sweet number, no longer am I fixated on wanting what somebody else has, or wishing and hoping and chasing this dream, or constantly wanting to scale myself and my success. It was no longer something I'm chasing. I'm like, oh, that's the sweet spot. And now I get to align my world around that sweet spot. And it became the same for my social life. How do I want that to look? How do I want that to feel? What does that look like? Is it going to the cinemas? Is it having friends coming around and chatting on the couch and drinking wine and playing board games? And getting powerfully related to that, such that I'm creating friends around me that align with the experience I want in my social life, which is playing board games, which is going over to friends' homes and chatting on the couch, right? Now, for some people, it could be going to the clubs or socializing till the early hours of the morning. Now, I'm a grandma, that's not me, but that could be somebody else's dream experience of the social life. But I get to create this, and you get to create this in every area of life that matters, such that you're now creating a life that is aligning with the experiences you want. And when you get like, it's so amazing when it's all mapped out on a mind map. It becomes your vision board, and then your life becomes so much bigger than you. It's now about that social life and that sweet spot number and that type of career that you want and the industry that you yearn for, with that environmental culture that you know it'll allow your self-expression to shine. And all of a sudden, your relationship to your physical appearance or your concern about the way you look just becomes this little part of your world. It's now all about your life and the experience that you're creating for yourself, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is your experience of your life. And when you're spending the time creating the experience that matters to you, that's when the sense of being enough, satisfaction, and fulfillment shows up. And that's the important thing, is that experience, really captivating the experience you want out there in the world. And the more you live into it, the more safe you feel to be authentic, because now your world is reflecting and nurturing your self-expression.
It reminds me a little bit on the 4 hours work week. I don't know whether you read this book. They have also the dreamlining and putting up together like the big, like a, not Excel sheet, but it's like a page where you put all together how much you spend, what are the things that you want to have, and then what is the money that you need for. And then you are actually figuring out how much you need to earn per day so that you can get to that goal. So it's reverse back, the engineering is going backwards, so that you can go and try to do it today and then get where you want to be in the future. But you also put a very interesting thing in it, which is the body consciousness and the outside look and the feel of your body and accepting your body, which is something very, very new. And I love it because it's so important today. Like, what do you think about the effect of digital, the effect of social media on body consciousness or self-love, or how people want to look when you see all these filters and everything that is really making us not look like us in real life?
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting when we talk about body conscious, because body conscious has this connotation of, or it's created in the space of, like, the more conscious we are of our body, the more ashamed we are. But when we talk inside of, like, the personal development world, being conscious is the awakening. So if we come from that space, the more we show up online, or the more we show up as our imagined stuff online and become that avatar, the more unconscious we become to our body. And the more unconscious we are, the more detached we are. And we're now not even listening to ourselves and what we want and desire. We're now chasing something. And so the impact is huge. Like the impact, the percentage of people that have poor body image in the world, especially females, 98% of females do not like the way that they look. And the experience you have of your body is the experience you have of yourself. They're directly correlated. That's why when, like, I'll use a very, like, exaggerated example, like when someone gets abused physically, it's literally happening to your physical body, but the impact is so much bigger than that. The impact is the abuse of self. And so we get to really get connected to that. Every time we desire to and pursue showing up as our avatar, what we're actually doing is we're making ourselves inferior. We're telling ourselves that we're not enough.
I love it. And talking about, just the avatars again, it's coming because it has a threat inside, and it also has opportunities to create opportunities for people who don't have it. It's like endless so-called traveling in the universe of this different digital worlds. So it's also a positive thing, but I believe it's also bringing up a lot of questions whether it will be making the things harder for those people who are struggling with themselves and they want to look totally different. So will it help them to be an avatar and make their body perfect in this avatar world, or really just really just to make it worse for them?
I think, again, it depends on the individual, and it's about having that level of observation and consciousness. So for some individuals, having that avatar is going to be able to support them in building the ability to communicate and build those relationships and develop a skill and gain that confidence. And if there's no awareness there or observation of that world, then they can get fully absorbed in it. So it's like that balancing act, like enabling yourself to be able to develop those skills and love that world and discover in that space. But on the flip side, be aware of, like, okay, am I doing this because I'm afraid or ashamed of myself? Or is this something that's actually building me up, and am I using it as a tool to consciously to build my confidence? And it's that balancing act, for sure.
So it's also it's also an opportunity if you really learn to use it on the positive note, and to use it to grow, and to use it as some kind of a personal development skill or tool that we can just pick up and grow in this area. But it's also something that I wanted to ask, because you are all about body freedom, and body freedom means so many things, right? Being free, and you have also a special approach which is very, very unique, and it's so unique in the world. So tell us a little bit about this, and what does it mean for you, and why do you believe this is some kind of a solution today?
Mm-hmm. So let me define body and freedom first. So body, in the context that I speak of, is mind, body, and soul. Because who we are is a lot more than our body. It's also our mind, the way that we think, and also who we are innately. So that's the body. And then freedom is about our ability to be ourselves in any circumstance, in any conversation with anyone, and having that freedom to be able to just be ourselves, which is the simplest way to live life, is that natural essence of ourselves. And my unique approach is like getting naked, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. And what that looks like is stripping back everything such that you're completely exposed. So mentally, it would be really looking at our belief systems and the beliefs that you have around money, or around your appearance, or around how you should be, or and getting conscious to all those boundaries and limitations and beliefs that you have that have you believe that the world shows up a certain way, and stripping all of those back such that you're basically like a baby and there's nothing there. And then we also do the same physically, and then also emotionally, such that you walk away into this world naked and authentic and free to express yourself, because those limitations and those barriers are no longer there, but everything's created inside of those values. Like if we go back to that mind map at the start of this conversation, who we are and what you're saying and what you're doing is completely aligned with that new identity that you've created, aligned with your authentic self.
It's very interesting, this part, because I remember, I mean, we all remember when we were kids, there was a time until we didn't get to the point when we were conscious enough to know who we are, girl, boy, and so on, that we were not ashamed, we were not like hiding ourselves, we were running freely. I remember like in the garden, the water was watering the grass, and then we were just running around just like kids. And it's something that is disappearing along the way while we are growing up, because we start to put all these covers, all the masks, and all the pressures of the society on us. And then that freedom, what you're talking about, is like kind of taken away from us in a way. And then it becomes harder to be naked, in a sense, what you say, that show up as ourselves and show up in this totally free way, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because we're now teaching ourselves that being naked is wrong or difficult or scary, And then we just keep putting those barriers up, and it makes it harder and harder and harder. So it is like ripping off that Band-Aid and allowing yourself to just finally surrender and allow yourself to witness yourself, like actually go and see yourself in the mirror, or authentically surrender and share what you're actually thinking with someone that you value and you can be vulnerable to, and just allow yourself to hear the thoughts out there. Allow yourself to be with the emotions out here in the world rather than internally in your body. And it's something to practice. It's a muscle that we get to train, and the more that we hide, the thicker those walls become.
Love the analogy. And tell me a little bit about what you do exactly and how you help people, and what are the things that you include in your methodology.
For sure. So I classify myself as a body authenticity coach, where I walk people through an authentic intelligence blueprint that allows one to be powerfully related to who they are authentically in their physical realm, in their mental realm, their spiritual realm, and in their relational realm. And the relational realm is something unique. That's about your relationship to the world and the people in it. And so by working with me, I get to coach you and guide you through those spaces, and you get to be intimately connected to what is your relationship to your physical body? What is your relationship to yourself from the point of view of your mindset? Like, are you reaching out for stuff and chasing things out there in the world, such as success and wealth and beauty? And if so, we get to unpick that and then create a space where, what if beauty was no longer something to get to, or wealth was no longer somewhere to get to, but rather it's somewhere you are right now? And practicing and discovering what it is to declare that you are a success now, you are beautiful now, you are wealthy now, and see what shows up in the experience of yourself inside of that space. And then the emotional realm is about your identity. Like, who are you without the stereotypes, without the labels? What is your version of you? And we get to unpick all of those labels and stereotypes that you've had throughout your life and that you've attached yourself to, whether that be female or male or heterosexual or queer or even doctor or entrepreneur, etc. The labels can go on, and we all have such a vast array of them that we attach ourselves to. Who are we without them? And unpicking them, basically throwing them out of the toolbox, and then taking the traits that really matter to us and rebuilding our own toolbox and having our own independent label, our own independent stereotype that's specific just for us, which is no longer a stereotype, but you get what I'm saying. And then the last thing is about, how do we relate to the world? Like, how does the world show up for us? Are we scared? Is it dangerous? Does it never give us what we want? Is the world a disappointment? And getting powerfully related to our authentic relationship with the world, and then doing the work to unpick that and flipping it so that the world has the opportunity to show up, to serve you and serve your self-expression. Because when we create a world that allows our self-expression, our authentic, natural essence to shine, that's when life becomes easier. That's when there is freedom. And that's when living and being alive is demonstrated.
I really love this, and I think it's also very important to see that once you unpack it, you will be so powerful. I think that gives you such a big confidence when you don't see yourself with the labels, and finally, again, you go back to the stage of a wondrous kid who's just in the world and enjoying all the things around. And we have an amazing question here from Achan. When one is overly grossed in the illusion world, would they lose themselves and not coming to their senses of the reality? So when someone is so involved in this illusional digital world that we mentioned earlier, can they come back? Or how do they come back to reality? How can they again look into the mirror?
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with that. When you're overly grossed in the illusion, you lose yourself for sure. And it's all about awareness and observation. And sometimes it takes 12 times for someone to like tap your shoulder and say, hey, you've lost yourself, or 12 things in your life to tell you that that happened before it actually clicks. I guess it's like any addiction, but the first step is always like being aware of like, oh, like I'm now ashamed of doing this or being this. I'm now overly engrossed in the space, and then start questioning it. It's not always about being quick and fast into fixing and changing, but more about noticing and being. And it's an awareness and observation of self and not making it wrong, which is the difficult thing. It's not about making it wrong, but it's simply about observing, becoming aware, accepting that that's where you are right there and then. And then inside of that acceptance of where you are, there then becomes this freedom and this space of generosity and compassion to actually take actions for you to create the version of you want to be in this world, which I'm asserting is not the lost version. But again, it's all about awareness and observation and not making yourself wrong, which is the concoction of acceptance.
Thank you so much. And lastly, because I see Sanjay and Nancy already in the studio, so they will be next, I just would like to ask you where people can reach you and what's the easiest way to reach out to you?
Yeah, so the easiest place to reach out to me is on LinkedIn. If you search my name, it'll be there. And just contact me in my inbox or connect with me. I'll definitely connect back and convert. So that's where you can find me.
Or people can visit you in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah, all that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for this amazing morning and all the empowering thoughts that you just put in front of all of us on such an early morning, because Malaysia wakes up around 10 a.m. so people are still like waking up. But I think everyone will watch this, and when they rewatch it, there are so much wisdom nuggets as in any sessions. I'm just so amazed by all the speakers sharing so unconditionally. So thank you so much, Stephanie. I wish you a beautiful day, and we see each other very soon, and enjoy your day in Costa Rica. Bye.
Bye.
So we are switching speakers, and we are also switching moderators, because sometimes, I feel I speak too much and I'm too many times in front of the camera during these long weeks of summiting. So I was asking one of my friends, and Sanj will come and replace me in the studio first. So I will bring him up first, and then after we will bring up our new guest coming up. And I just love her. You will also love her. And Sanj will be the one who will ask the questions. So let's bring up Sanj first. Hi, Sanjaya. How are you today?
I'm good. Can you see me clearly?
Everything all right. Everything.
Okay.
Everyone can see you. So happy to have you in the studio. I will go backstage and bring you up, Nancy, and the stage will be yours.
Fantastic. We're ready to get going straight away.
Yes, straight away, just like that. Let's.
All right. Hello. Hi, welcome everyone to this conversation today. The title of this conversation is Ignoring the Algorithm. My name is Andrea, and having been a business development consultant in the area of digital marketing, customer experience platforms, I'm redirecting my career to also add in personal and professional development. I'm very excited to have with me today, and join me is Nancy Barrows. Hi, Nancy. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I see you. It looks like you've almost gotten ready for Christmas with all the decoration and the colors that you're wearing.
Well, this is pretty much what it always looks like. For Christmas, you'll see more, actually.
Okay, great. Nancy, we have very little time, so I'm going to go straight into giving a quick introduction of you. So Nancy Barrows holds a master's degree in communication disorders and sciences and a certificate of clinical competence in speech language pathology. She's a keynote speaker, producer, creator, and host of Connected Human Conversations. She's the Chief Inspiration Officer of The Chick with a Tool Belt. I want to hear more about that, as well as the Chief Engagement Officer at Voice Your Vibe. And not forgetting, she is also one of the top 50 most impactful people awarded or by LinkedIn. So congratulations on that, Nancy. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to meet new people, to share, especially about that algorithm. And just in case you came to find out how to beat the algorithm or how it works, that's not what I'm here to tell you about with this algorithm. And feel free to ask me as many questions as you want. You live here in the comments. I'm happy to answer as much as I can if we don't, get to things we wanted to talk about. So feel free, guide me. I will answer.
Great. Nancy, I thought it would be good to get things started by having the audience get to know you a little bit better, even though you are one of the most impactful people voted on LinkedIn. So I had an opportunity to actually look into a little bit of your astounding resume of, wearing various different hats and roles, but they all seem to encompass around communication and more specifically social cognition. Could you share with us a little bit as to why that focus is so important for you?
Absolutely. So I'm all about radiating real, which basically is inviting everyone and inviting them to take off their mask and show up as they are, authentically themselves, and allow themselves to feel the unconditional love and acceptance that comes with that. And I started as a speech language pathologist. I was fascinated by the fact that, I was taking a sign language class from a deaf woman, learning a new language, and that we could communicate. So that was the first spark for me, with this ability to communicate, across so many different barriers, and how powerful that was. And then I worked in the public schools in Los Angeles, and I realized, I worked in social communication and the way that kids related to the world and young adults related to the world. And I built my private practice, and it was all around helping people connect to one another, to the people around them, and to the world around them, and having them understand the power of who they are, their story, the importance of that, but also how we have this ability to see the world a certain way. And in turn, how we show up is how the world thinks of us. And that we have that opportunity every day, every interaction, every moment, and on social media to not curate content in terms of create who we are, but to curate content in creating a whole human and a real person. And we all, as humans, want to connect. We're meant to be part of communities, and we know what that does to mental health when we're not. We also know what happens to our mental health when we are burdened by carrying shame and secrets, and we don't feel that we can show up as us, and we don't feel that we will be loved unconditionally for who we are. And so as I came through with my skills as a speech language pathologist and started jumping on LinkedIn, and I can tell you a bit about that story, I realized this need for it, and that I had the skills and I could share something that people would benefit from. And all I had to do was show up as me. You were talking about that top 50. It is an honor. And it's still one of those things. I'm like, when it happened, I never expected myself to be on the list. I was on LinkedIn for 10 months when I was named one of the top 50 most impactful people, which is why I'm telling you, ignore the algorithm. I had no idea what I was doing. I showed up. My first 5 posts on LinkedIn were my cat sitting in a chair. Probably didn't trigger anything with the algorithm. Then my next 3 posts were the same image and the same copy, because I had no idea. Clearly, I hadn't figured out how to post yet. And that, of course, did not play to the algorithm, whatever it was at that time. And my last post was about me honoring my body's wisdom and request to stay in bed and relax on a Saturday. Maybe that one, maybe it got to the algorithm and somehow, but probably not. And yet, by ignoring the algorithm and showing up as me, I was impacting people. And I love it because it's everybody's story. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. Because literally, I was not selling anything. I had a job. I didn't need to put a resume. I was just being me. And what happened was I was live a week after getting on to LinkedIn for a telethon for the XXO Connect platform. And we were talking about mental health and sort of the shame around it and how we hide. And this is during a pandemic where we were all living life in a very messy, ugly, unsexy way. We were all doing it together, but people were still not talking about it. And so I started talking about my childhood trauma, and I, mid-sentence, I thought, Nancy, you're part of the problem. If you can't say the words, how do you expect anyone else to talk about it? And in that moment, I decided, and I didn't know at that time, there were nearly 1 billion people on the platform. And of course, they weren't all watching. But at that moment, I decided to share my story of having been sexually abused by my grandfather till I was 16 years old. The eating disorder that came, the major depressive episodes. And it was that moment of, hey, we're all real. We're all living life. We all have something we're going through or have gone through or grown with. And when we share that story, the response was overwhelming, the support. You're always worried about sharing this piece of yourself and that this private piece, which I'm here to tell you, it's not private. Mine, it's crucial for my story not to be private. It's very personal. For sure, but it's not private. But in showing up and being me, everything else happened. Showing up, being me, not going away. I gave a keynote last weekend in Pennsylvania. That was never on my list of things that I thought I'd ever be doing. But because I showed up, someone saw one of my videos and they contacted me. The things are happening because I'm me. And so that algorithm that we're going to talk about, why it's important to ignore it is because I'm sure for some people it works and they're dialed into it, but we have to remember our why. Like, why are we here? And I get it. People are here to sell. You've got a product, you got yourself something. But if I have the opportunity to buy from someone who sends me a DM and immediately starts selling me versus someone who contacts me and says, hey, great to meet you. I saw you here. Or again, send me a DM from this talk and say, I saw you at the Global Empowerment Summit. And let's have a conversation as people. That by the time we get to anything that I might want to do business-wise, if I know you, I like you, I trust you, and I know that we can relate to one another, there's a better chance. I mean, for me, it's 100% chance that I'm going to go with the person that I know. And so this algorithm sort of gets us bogged down. And we're trying to chase the algorithm and trying to figure it out while it's constantly changing. And you're chasing numbers rather than connection and people.
Great. Thank you for that, Nancy. I think what I took away from that was there's also the language, or we hear people talking about being authentic. So I relate to what you just described as also why it's important to show up as authentic. So then if you really do have something to offer, it's coming from an authentic place. Nancy, I wanted to ask you actually, so you've talked so much about this moment you had and why you feel being authentic and real is important. Can you share a surprising story that you encountered in this journey that you've been on?
There's been several. I think that first thing that was surprising to me was that my whole life I had been on this path without realizing it. Starting as a speech pathologist, I worked giving people a voice, helping them communicate. I worked in an area and gravitated to an area where trauma was the rule, not the exception, because I could bring me to that situation straight up until getting on LinkedIn and people telling me that, I always thought I was just being me, but there were skills I had, right? That shocked me. And then I've had the stories of people who you see from the outside, and we all do it. We see what's out there, and we tend to use our internal report card, and we never seem to use it when we want to give ourselves an A+. We always use it when we think we're failing. And having conversations with people that I had never met before who felt comfortable being completely honest with me about everything, because I had entered into this brave space of saying, I'm here. If you want to join too, you're not the only one taking the risk. And so this piece of people sharing and entrusting their stories to me, all of us walks around going, it's just me, right? Why me? But people who had never shared their story before were sharing it with me. I don't know if it was surprising, but one of my favorite moments was when the husband of a partner who was first really starting to go through and having been sexually abused and starting to have flashbacks, but the partner reached out to me and said, how do I support? What can I do? And it sort of was an aha moment of, okay, this is bigger than just the people who have had my journey. There's people who are on a journey with someone, but that I came onto this platform wanting to be the woman who changed the narrative on sexual abuse. But I very quickly realized that what needed to change in addition to that was the narrative on our stories. the importance of them, the power of them to change and impact someone else's life, and that we don't view ourselves as, not as important as, or I didn't have that trauma. Mine was so much smaller. To own our space, to recognize that each and every one of us has a superpower, and to have been in the space with people when they discover their voice and watch them come to life. It's shocking only because it's a privilege. And how did I get to be the one to be there? But again, people's willingness and wanting to be vulnerable, real, and connected, it was shocking because on social media, we don't see that. And when I was willing to step into that space, other people, it had given them permission in some way. And it was beautiful, breathtaking to watch people start radiating real and embracing and feeling the love that comes with being you.
Sounds like the me online became the we, but based on just authentically sharing your story. That's a fantastic. Nancy, but I want to get quickly into the topic of the title today, right? We have a little bit of time only. So I have a two-part question to get things started to define exactly what the title means, right? So for me, I assumed, and I think you alluded to when you said the word, you use the word algorithm, you're referring to social media algorithm. And secondly, ignoring. To me, ignoring sounds like a very powerful word that doesn't usually have very positive connotations. Why did you choose such a word for the heading of your title?
Because I think it's important that we truly set it aside and ignore it. I think about things in my daily life that I have changed the power of the word, right? Ignore, should, has now become one that has very little power in my world. Should, I don't even know what that means. Knowing the power of words. Shifting this ignore to this place of, here are my boundaries. Here's where I'm investing my energy. Here are the things and people that nourish my soul and help me grow. And for me, that's not the algorithm. For me, that is exactly like you said, the shining your light on someone else. And the only number that matters is one. The one person who your content reaches in the moment they need to hear it. So for me, if we're chasing that algorithm and we're saying, oh, well, now, video is really popular. I happen to love video and live because I think you get to get the feel of the person. And I think that's powerful. But, when it was articles, everybody was writing articles, and then it switched to something else. And now we're all doing that, as opposed to, how do you feel comfortable showing up? What's authentic to you? And if we are ignoring the algorithm, we aren't changing who we are based on what's being seen. And ignore is a strong word, because I think the second we start to look at the algorithm, we are looking at vanity metrics, not reality metrics, not the heart of it. Because you can scroll past my post and I think I get one view. You didn't even stop to read it. You don't even know what's going on. So I can feel great about all those numbers, or I can look at the engagement on my post and what I then am able to give back to the people who took their time to engage on my content. So we can look at those vanity metrics, and there's ways to bump those up. But at the end of the day, what's the value? What's your why? Why are you here? Are you here to be, and I don't mean to sound harsh, but are you here to be voted, prom king or queen? Or are you here to make a difference? Are you here to help people? Are you here to shine your light on others, reach your hand out and let people know they got it and you're with them? For me, it's all about making someone feel seen, heard, loved, and valued. If I can do that and help them understand that we do not have to apologize for living life and being human, I am the luckiest woman out there to be able to tell one person that.
Thank you, Nancy. A question comes to my mind when you speak of that. So I understand you've made it very clear why we shouldn't focus so much on chasing the algorithm. But correct me if I'm wrong. As I understood, the algorithm was designed to make it a lot more better for us, right? Make it more efficient, to provide the right content to us, to get towards where we want to go easy and faster. So how does that, why should we ignore it when that's actually the main goal of, which sounds like a beneficial thing for whoever utilizes it?
Well, and that is the idea of the algorithm. But with anything, people find ways to use it to their advantage. So it's not a pure measure. It's not going to actually, really get at what you're saying, right? Help me get to my content, because people form pods, they have bots, and they're just boosting. And it doesn't mean that the person like me that has a full-time job and is getting on LinkedIn in between and doing 4 hours minimum live a week on shows, What's Good Wednesday and Shout Out Saturday, if I can't engage that much, if I can't post that much, I say all the time, I'm consistently inconsistent. That is the one thing I can promise you, right? But should my content be considered less valuable and less worth viewing because I have time constraints? Or what about people who are eating up people's content, but they're not comfortable posting? They're not creators in the sense of posting, but they are in the comments, or maybe they're not ready to get into the comments yet, but they're gaining value for something and you're quote unquote not getting credit for it. So it's about credit. And the algorithm is constantly changing. That's the other thing is, yes, bring content. And it was since you have been able to ring people's bell on their profile on LinkedIn, I will say, and follow people specifically that you like, you are able to get the content without having to worry about the algorithm. And once you say, like if you're following me on my social, you're going to see other content that's like mine. So you're going to have the opportunity to be exposed to it without having to worry about who's the person behind the post. Do they really care that it's me? Right? I want to make sure people know, like, I care that you showed up. I appreciate that you chose to use your time this way, right? This is about the connection. You can have a lot of likes and a lot of followers, and if you don't know who they are, you don't know something about them. One of the things I love about how I built my network, and when people come to our shows, Brian Schulman and I co-host 2 global award-winning weekly live shows, is that I can say, hey, how's so-and-so, hey, where are you now, Flat Billy? Or, how is the champagne on Friday night, Bob? Because I know that he and his wife share that. I have people. I don't have numbers. And so again, I think there's a trap. And I think for our mental health, you start looking at those numbers and you go, oh my gosh, only this many people saw it.
Yeah.
Only this many. If you go around in your day-to-day life, if you had, how many people do you contact in a meaningful way? Right? Within our circle, you're lucky if you have several of those a day, but you have thousands and thousands and thousands, great. But if I had 10 people view my post and all 10 felt like they wanted to engage with it, to me, that's far more valuable than having, the 10,000 that scroll by.
I mean, for me, I just saw a visualization when you're talking about LinkedIn, and I read a story of how you talked about people just pressing the connect button, but they're straight away pitching to you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Versus what you're trying to say is make the connection, get to know the person. So it's about getting towards the same goal, but there's 2 ways. One, you can just chase the numbers to get to and provide the value, or other ways to have real connection. That's really interesting. I think that's something I would definitely want to try and do with my social media presence as well. Awesome. Sorry, yes?
No, I was going to say, think about it, because I'm sure that more than one of us has gotten the connect request that's either someone telling you something right away, or they didn't really look at your profile. I've gotten things like, hey, I was looking for profiles of top lawyers. There's nothing in my profile that would make you think I'm a lawyer. Whatever program you had that was looking for keywords misidentified me. So I know I'm not important to you. My number, putting another tally mark, is important to you. And I have to say, I don't connect with those people. So you can send out all of those, but the likelihood that you're going to get people who feel good about getting that as their invite, what I find in talking to clients and friends and, even family, like, ick. That makes me not want to connect with you. It's as much of a calling card and an introduction to who you are as me sending and saying, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to comment on my post. I'm glad it had value for you. You know, your comment really made me think, whatever it was. That connect request versus the one that wants to sell me something or doesn't take the time to know who I am. I don't even know that you get the numbers that way. And you're collecting people who also want numbers.
Very true. Very true. Nancy, we are running short of time, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
I really wish we could talk more and more about it. So I'm going to give the last segment over to you. I would like if you could share a little bit more so people really understand maybe the dangers or the things that could continue to become worse if we're not aware to be aware of trying to ignore the algorithm. And then since this week's theme for the Global Empowerment Summit is about leadership, maybe you could talk a little bit more in your own words as well. What can leaders that are listening in and hear this conversation do in order to propagate more the reasons why ignoring the algorithm would be a wise choice?
So I'm going to start with that. I am a lead by example person. So all of you leaders out there, you know, we've got to show from the top down that it's okay to be human. It's okay to have things in the background. I am so surprised my little gray cat has not walked across my screen with her tail under my nose. When I started doing all of this, I never expected her to be part of my brand, but people show up for her, I think, more than they show up for me sometimes. She's known to produce our show. She's kicked me out of the green room. She comments, you know, so if you show up human, then you're giving other people permission to do exactly that. And again, when we talk about personal content, not private, you don't have to crack open your chest and tell your secrets because that's not real either. We don't do that as humans. We don't just expose our hearts to the world. You do it slowly over time by sharing different things about yourself. And if you're sharing about things that are important to you and are of value to you and inspire you, then the people who interact with your content are going to have those same interests and values. And already you have something in common. So if you're out there leading, lead, dare to show people that there's another way rather than looking at those numbers, because you talk about the dangers and the dangers are in burnout. People are churning and churning and churning and I'm not getting the numbers. I'm not getting numbers. I need to be doing more. And then they're done. It becomes work and they're resentful. And this platform is a place that doesn't bring them joy. It's a dread. We're looking at those numbers and you start to think that who you are and what you have to say is unimportant. And how dangerous is that? Just to feel that you're unimportant or you're not seen or heard or what you're doing is not making a difference, that you're not making a difference because you're looking at numbers. Oh, that really means I have to go soon because you're because you're looking at numbers. And for me, sharing my story was so powerful. It was powerful to me to be able to give people who cannot yet share their story, still wear their mask, permission to step into who they are fully. During the pandemic, was the first time I 100% committed to being 100% me 100% of the time. And that was at 48 years old. At 48 years old, I finally said, you know what? I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I can't keep it straight anymore. What mask do I wear for you? What mask do I wear for you? Does it matter? And my relationships were suffering. How close can you get with people if you're only letting them see the very surface of you? And if you don't show your human side, if you spend a lot of time with someone who doesn't show their human side, the chances that you're going to show your human side are very small. And we need that connection. And so when that algorithm changes again and your numbers, take a hit, remember, it's not about the number of people. It's about one person. If you can impact and change one person's world, make them feel seen, heard, loved, valued, take away their need to apologize for living life and being human. If I could walk away from each day having done that, what more could I ask for? Truly, if I can give that to someone, it's a privilege. It truly is, to help people know they matter, that they're cared about, that they're seen, heard, loved, and valued. That's huge. And that algorithm has a tendency to get in our heads and make us think that we are not, and that what we're doing doesn't matter, and forces us to run on this hamster wheel and eventually burn out and disappear. And then we lose amazing humans on these platforms with so much to offer and share. I want to invite the audience right now to either take a screenshot or go ahead and do the funnel selfie with your computer, right? And share wherever you share. I'm on LinkedIn. That's my home. I'm a LinkedIn gal. Share with some, there you go. I'll do it too. We'll have pictures of people taking pictures, right? It's great, but that's exactly it. So, okay. Now share that on social media. Tag me, tag Andrea, tag, she calls you Sans, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I come with many names.
And you put hashtag radiating real, and you put a little bit about yourself in that post. Why did you show up here? You know, anything about, you know, what it was that's about you, and you radiated real. When I speak, and we can do it really quickly, when I speak, it's say, you know, if you agree with this statement, raise your hand. I like cats. Right? And then my favorite colors are blue and green. And keep asking questions. You see people in the room, nod and smile, because something that you just shared about yourself meant something to someone else. And that's what this is going to do. Go ahead, take that photo, take that screenshot, and Amanda, many names, yes, and post. And if you tag me, I promise I will be there. And I will share with you the unconditional love and acceptance that you deserve for showing up as you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I really have to stop you because we have another studio to go to. Our next speaker is in the room already. But I just wanted to give you a virtual hug. So all of you, Sanj, I give it to you too. And then this group, and also to Brian and all the crew that is following you and supporting you. They are all here. Roland, Ken, everyone.
I have to go back through
all your Bob and everything, and Alchan and Aaron and Enrique. So thank you so much, guys, for showing up. And this is how
that's the power of radiating real, right there. That's the power of ignoring the algorithm.
Love you guys. I will start a very short video. Thank you, Sanj, for making
Thank you so much, Nancy.
happen.
Thank you. Wonderful to have met you and spent some time with you.
See you guys. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.